Recording started. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming one of the strongest panels of the day and of the region, TCell Gulf, who have been kind enough to join us all as a team to talk about the role of professional associations, past, present, and future directions. Allow me to introduce each and every one of the team members in this group. Let me start by Rana. Shall we? Rana?
Thank you.
Rana Khan. Rana is actually based in Kuwait, Rana, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes,
you're a senior instructor in English and business at English and Skills Foundation program in you pronounce that?
Algonquin.
Algonquin. I wouldn't have managed to get it without you. Algonquin College. She has a master's degree in English and business. Rana is a chair to conferences, Professional Council, TCell International Association. She is currently pursuing her doctorate degree in education from University of Bath, the UK. Welcome, Rana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear. Georgios, this is the second time I introduce you today. Georgios Kompas is currently the Director of Teaching, Learning and Development Center at Al Yamama University in KSA, Saudi, and works for the Center of Executive Education. Georgios is pursuing a PhD in technology enhanced learning from Lancaster University and is currently the chair of TCell ANPC, which stands for Affiliate Network for Professional or Affiliate Network Professional Council at TCell International Association. I'm so excited having Dr. Christine Combe for the first time in an activity that we work closely with. I've attended several of her amazing talks face-to-face and virtually. Dr. Combe is an associate professor of general studies at Dubai Men's College, higher colleges of technology in the United Arab Emirates. She served as president of TCell International Association from 2010 to 2012. Next, we have Sandra Stein. Is it Stein or Stein?
It is both, actually.
Okay. So Sandra Stein holds master's in education, and is that TCell?
Yes.
Yeah, she's a senior instructor in the intensive English program at the American University of Kuwait. She's an educator for 30 years. Her focus is on curriculum development, reading, learning disabilities, and project-based learning. She was the director of the IEP for 3 years, served as reading and writing coordinator, and is a distinguished Toastmaster. You'd better tell us about Toastmaster a little. I'm so curious about it. Now, another speaker
would be my pleasure.
Yeah, please, thank you. Allison Larkin Kushki. This is the second time to introduce her. We enjoyed her session last evening and surely will enjoy her role or her talk in today's panel. She's a senior language educator at the American University of Kuwait. She celebrates language and culture with her students through literature, drama, and the arts. She holds an MA in cultural and linguistic anthropology from the University of Wisconsin, Madison, and is now pursuing a doctoral degree in education at the University of Bath. Last but definitely not least, Dr. Mashaal El-Hilmi. She's a professor of applied linguistics. She's the director of the MA and PhD program in translation at Kuwait University. She has a PhD in CALL, my most favorite field, which is computer-assisted language learning. She has published in regional as well as international journals in the areas of CALL testing as well as translation studies. Without further ado, now I'm turning the floor to you, and I'll be happy to be a good listener. Thank you.
Thank you.
Share our screen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
So hello, everyone. And thank you so much, Hannah, for such an amazing, such a wonderful introduction to the entire team. I welcome, on behalf of the TCell Gulf Interim Board, I welcome everyone. In our panel today, we are discussing an important topic. Because of the current pandemic, we all experience this kind of situations. The topic is the role of professional associations, past, present, and future directions, and especially in context of TCell Gulf. As panelists, we will share our experiences, how we evolved rapidly during the pandemic from a small organization that was established in January 2020 into a regional and global organization. We will also talk about challenges for language educators during COVID-19. And also, in addition, we will discuss the professional development opportunities, community building, and ways to connect and move forward these measures that were taken by our organization to help language teachers. Each one of us has taken an important point in our panel today. So let me quickly go through each one of them. So first one is role of professional organizations during the pandemic, which will be addressed by Christine, as Hannah introduced you to her. Then I will follow with how the organization came into existence, the idea of advocacy behind it. And then we will Alison will talk about collaboration, how we collaborated with regional leaders and its expansion. It will be followed by Sandy, who will discuss about the role of the current pandemic in making our organization totally virtual. And George will talk about the role of digital media in bridging the global community. So how we brought people into our fold, the global community into our fold. And Mashaal will conclude when she discusses the commitment of the organization in building teaching networks and communities. So I will just quickly hand over to Christine, who will talk about the role of professional organizations during the pandemic. Over to you, Christine.
Thank you, Rana, and greetings to everybody, wherever you are in the world this evening. It makes me very happy to be asked to talk about the role of a professional association, because professional associations have really figured prominently in my own life and in my own career. So let's look a little bit at what is a professional association exactly. Well, here are two definitions found very quickly in the literature. Professional associations are a body of individuals that are working in the same profession, and they're formed usually to control either entry into the profession, but also to maintain standards or even to create standards and to represent the profession in discussion with other organizations or other professional bodies. A better definition, I think, is the second one on this slide, and that's organizations that act as a body or even an umbrella for professionals who work in the same or similar fields. And as such, these types of associations define what we do as professionals, and they help their members further their professional goals through a number of different activities, among them ongoing learning, professional development, research, quality control, publication, among many others. Let's move on to whether we actually need professional associations. A number of us on this panel are conducting research on professionalism, and especially professionalism during the pandemic. And one of the big research findings with regard to professionalism in any field is the positive link that being a professional citizen, and by being a professional citizen, I mean being a member of a professional association, is positively linked with higher levels of professionalism. So I think that in and of itself is a wonderful rationale for why we need professional associations. I also feel that a person has to treat themselves as a professional if they want others to respect their profession. And I know the TCell field has suffered from this in the past, where in many places around the world, and luckily none of the places that we come from have this issue, where many professionals are allowed to teach English just because they are native speakers of English without being trained. So having professional associations helps us advocate for our members. Now, in the literature, there are 3 levels of value that have been afforded by professional associations. First of all, there's value to the profession in general. The more high profile or high status a professional association is, the better that makes the profession appear to the wider community within itself and to the wider community worldwide. Professional associations are also valuable to the organizations that we are affiliated with, as well as the institutions that we work for. And I think for me, the best benefit or of a value of a professional association is of a personal perspective. Now, if I look at my own journey as a professional in the field of TCell or English language teaching, many of my career milestones have been afforded to me through my involvement in 2 professional associations. The first being TCell and the TCell affiliates like TCell Arabia and now TCell Gulf has basically had a huge impact on me. Another is one that has already been mentioned called Toastmasters, which is a different type of professional association, but has had an equal impact on me as a professional and personally as well. In fact, if I look back career-wise, I got my first job at the TCell convention in 1992? Yes, 1992 in Vancouver. I published my first book with a refereed publisher in 1996 with TCell. I did my first long presentation called a PCI, a Pre-Conference Institute with TCell. I've done many other things, service to the association. I've been given awards, and I've served on the TCell International Board of Directors, including convention chair for the Tampa 2006 conference, as well as being president of the association from 2011 to 2012. Now, all of these terms of service and all of these activities happened over a gradual, maybe 20 to 25 years of involvement. But for me, it's been a real learning curve. And I like to say that when I came to the UAE, in 1994, TCell Arabia was just getting started. And of course, back then I was a teen like I am now. So I volunteered. I think my first position was executive secretary. And then I've been involved with TCell Arabia for all these years, still finding ways to become involved and to move the association forward to mentor colleagues, etc. And I know that members of this panel have similar stories and similar milestones that they have reached as a result of a professional association. including TCell International. So let's take a look back and look at some statistics about professional associations. Now, when I first became involved during my first board term at TCell, we get a little bit of training when we get elected to the board. And one of the sessions that we had as the board of convention chairs was we had a consultant come in who shared the interesting statistic that only 10%, or back then, only 10% of the population of any given profession takes that extra step forward to become a member of their professional association. And I remember thinking back, boy, that's a very small number of professionals. And when I was looking for some more literature about this, I found a most shocking finding that things have changed since way back in 2006. In a recent study, now this is not just in educational professional associations, there has been a lot of research and a major study cited here that although people view professional associations nowadays as being very useful, more often than not, they're viewed upon as being old school. Now, I've known this because with TCell International, our membership surveys reveal that the mean age of a TCell member is late 40s, early 50s. Now, I know we're all young at heart. However, we have plenty of people in our profession that we need to engage in professional associations. Luckily, the millennials who exist in our profession and those who are under 40 do see the value of professional associations, but a high percentage of those people under the age of 40 are leaving the already established or older professional associations because of a number of reasons. And I'm going to go through some of these findings, and I hope my colleagues will refer to some of these statistics in their own presentations, because I'm hoping we can use these statistics in order to attract younger members and keep them with us so that we can take advantage of the various skill sets that they bring to us. So let's have a look. Of the people that were surveyed, can we move back, please, Ron? I just want to go through these a little bit individually. Of those people surveyed, 37% did not see the value of being in a group, okay? 45% of them reported that participation in an association was too expensive for them because of their entry into the profession. 35% said that the group wasn't really a community because they didn't really feel surrounded by their own peers. And by that, I think they mean people of a younger age. 31% felt that the groups lacked in their use of technology. And 27% said that these older associations lack the proper curation or organization. Now, the good news is that a majority of millennials did express an interest in belonging to a professional association, but they preferred to join an association founded by peers of a similar age group. So I know that our association, which you're going to hear about in a few minutes, has taken a lot of this research on board in the composition of our new affiliate. So let's move on, Rana, and look at some of the values or the recognized benefits of belonging to a professional association. Now, the literature tells us that there are 3 important benefits. I have added a 4th one to this. And the most recognized benefits are benefits for and opportunities to network with our peers, with people who have the same interests as we do, such as in interest sections or special interest groups. Those of us who want to network with groups or different affiliates or associates, networking through different subject matter interests as well. A second value or important benefit is that of education. Now, lots of us think that You know, and there are people who they get their terminal degree, they go off into the workforce and they think, okay, this is it. I don't really need to you know, to learn anything more. I've got my master's, I've got my doctorate. And I think about my own education. I graduated with my doctorate in, okay, please don't judge me, but 1992, that was a heck of a long time ago. And imagine if I hadn't learned anything about my field since 1992, I wouldn't be really doing what's best for my students or my colleagues. Career development is another recognized benefit of a professional association. If we had longer time with you today, I'd like to see how many of you, for example, got a job through interviewing at a TCell or a TCell affiliate conference. And finally, I think financial benefits are another major benefit from belonging to a professional association, especially for those of us who buy books, for example. When you attend an affiliate conference, the registration is always cheaper if you're a member. There are also lots of financial benefits like the cheaper cost of books, cheaper cost of subscribing to any of the association's publications or journals. And I think the more exposure you get through your professional association, the more apt you are to get publishing contracts, maybe research grants, or consulting contracts that come with financial benefits. Now I'd like to take you through another article which I found to be very useful, and that was about 10 important benefits for professional association. And this comes to us from Hill, a much more recent publication. Some of these I've already mentioned, like continuing education and job prospects, but a third that hasn't already been mentioned, but I guess that it could be part and parcel of education, and that's the opportunity to be paired up with a mentor. TCell International's leadership mentoring program is a fine example of that. Networking, we've talked about, access to resources. I still remember my first TCell convention. Maybe many of you who have been to TCell have similar memories. And I remember going into the exhibition hall, and literally I was awestruck at the choice of books and materials. And I think I probably spent 2 whole days without leaving the exhibition hall. It was so impressive. So getting access to resources, coming into contact with people that you might never come into contact, and gaining their new perspectives, getting the important professional development you need. And if any of you have ever seen the program of a TCell International convention with 800 plus choices of sessions you can get, is very impressive indeed. I also think that attending affiliate events and being involved in a professional association is a way to get your name and your institution or your department's name out there in the public domain. And that's your first step in developing the much needed expertise, especially for the younger members of our audience and the younger members of our profession. It's one way to start the development of your expertise factor. Certifications are yet another advantage that's been listed by Hill. And finally, the time to recharge. Any of us, I know we're all friends from the TCell convention anyway, amongst other arenas. And we all know that the TCell convention, it's a very long flight away, first of all, but it's one of and we all go there, and it's probably 5 days of, walking around, being exhausted, but isn't it a way to recharge, basically? Being surrounded by like-minded people and by people who have the same beliefs and goals, it is very much a way for me to recharge. So now I'm happy to let my colleagues take over to introduce a new, very exciting professional association that we've been working on for the last, almost a year now. So I think, Rana, it's your turn to introduce us to TCell Gulf. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Christine. So my part is relatively small, but as I mentioned earlier, that ours is a relatively younger organization. We established it in January. But I would quickly, like as Christine mentioned earlier, I would like to give you a quick insight into how I'd been associated with TCell. So I had been working with TCell Kuwait as its board secretary for 2 years. And then I also ran the conference as conference chair for 2017 and as proposals chair for 2019. All these years, every year when we had a conference, we realized that there was a lot of regional interest. Like we had quite a lot of participants from the other countries like Bahrain and Oman, and also from Saudi Arabia. So this gave us an idea that there is a strong need for a regional organization. And if we could find something like this, a lot of people might be interested in becoming members. Mm-hmm. So, and also, just as as Hannah introduced me, I'm also associated with TCell International in my capacity as the chair to the Conferences Professional Council. I also felt that there was a total lack of awareness about TCell International. It's the benefits of its membership. It's such huge benefits that people can have, and somehow people did not know much about it. So the idea was also to promote some kind of advocacy for TCell International. So there were two main objectives for us to think about when we were thinking about having this organization floated. So I and my two other colleagues who are here with me on the board, Sandra Stein and Alison Kushki, we've all of us hail from Kuwait, and of course also Michelle. So we thought about having an organization that was kind of, regional in character. And we started with, we thought about hosting a small event first to talk about what we intend to preach through our organization. And this was a colloquium in January, the beginning of January, 25th of January. And our host, our plenary speaker, guess who our plenary speaker was? Again, he's one of the interim board members, Georgios Vlasios Korpus. Well, I knew him as a colleague from TCell International. He is the NPC chair, so it was easy for us to invite him. It reflected the objective that we had for advocacy for TCell International, and also he is a regional leader. As he hails from, he's based in Saudi Arabia. So the event was very successful. It was a Friday, and despite of the fact that it was a Friday, we had a lot of registrations, roughly 100 to 110 registrations, and roughly 55 people showed up. It is good sizable number for a Friday. And a lot of people were interested in TCell International, actually, and we were really happy to see that. We had organized a special help desk for that. I'm going to show you some pictures now. A lot of people wanted to know about TCell International, so this was really a good success for us. Let me share some pictures with you. So here you can see George in the first picture delivering his keynote, and there he's smiling with our attendees. And there is this picture on this on the right, extreme right. We have some of the people looking very, very engaged there, of course. And we have a group photograph. Of course, a lot of people had left by then, but still quite a lot of people stayed back until the last minute. And there, this is Allison, another colleague of ours who's sitting here. She was talking about RIAL. This is also another field that she's very passionate about reading. Is it reading English?
Actively for language and life.
Language and life skills. So this is something that she's really very, very passionate about. So she was introducing this idea of a special interest group. And this is our dedicated help desk. We had people sitting for regular registrations, as well as helping people to know more about TCell International, as well as, to sign up if they wanted to. So it turned out to be a very successful event. And as I mentioned, we had this idea of regional character behind it. We wanted the organization to be regional in character because we wanted more active participation from the region, from different countries. So we thought of approaching our regional colleagues who are regional leaders as well. So of course, Christine is here. Everybody knows her. We thought that she would be a good support and she would be able to guide us. So, and also we felt that there was a lack of regional collaboration. If we could have an idea floated like this, a lot of people become not only actively involved in its membership, but also active participation. And we could host different events in different countries. So when we approached Christine and we approached George from 2 different countries, they both showed clear interest and they really supported us. And we're really thankful to them because we needed that kind of support from people. So this idea was very welcome by them. And then we started thinking about a second event, which was supposed to take place in March and April. And we were, of course, planning it as a as a face-to-face event. But during the same time, the pandemic, and we were supposed to go to TCell Arabia and then, plan about all this with Christine and George, who are also going to be there in TCell Arabia. But somehow the pandemic hit us and everything was, we were not able to do it. And eventually we ended up hosting it virtually. And I am going to pass it over now to Allison, who is going to talk more about how we planned about these events and how this whole thing materialized. Over to you, Allison.
Thank you, Rana. Could you go back to my title slide for a second? Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm going to talk about collaboration with regional leaders in the expansion of TCell Gulf. Yes, you can go forward, Rana, if you will. So scrolling back a second to January, we had our a great event, face-to-face event. We were creating the idea of TCell Gulf. George was our plenary speaker. We were able to speak to him in person. And then we started planning. As Rana said, we planned another event coming up for March, April. And it was going to be face-to-face, but there's an expression that I learned from British colleagues that comes to mind: many a slip between the cup and the lip. And that's when the pandemic arrived. Well, prior to that, as I've listed here, in early February, we're still good, still haven't had problems with the pandemic. We started planning for the second March-April event to be held before Ramadan. And then my second bullet, in late February, how convenient, we were able to meet with Dr. Christine Koum and Dr. Suhair Al-Alami in Dubai and discuss further with them as regional leaders about the expansion of TCell Gulf. There was an event at Al Ghurair University, a forum, a one-day conference. And luckily, Rana and I and Christine were all there, along with Dr. Suhair Al-Alami. And we met and planned more face-to-face events, even one for June. The last bullet is when it became real that we were going off the rails. The TCell convention was canceled in March. And that was a strong signal that something unusual was happening. So can you go ahead, Rana? So this just, I'll call it that event in Dubai, the Al Ghurair one-day conference, where us four were able to meet and discuss the expansion of TCell Gulf, which at that time we thought was going to be through face-to-face events. Here we are, Allison, Rana, Christine, and Suhair. And we discussed, and this was, I call this the last hurrah professional development. And notice the interesting date. It was February 20th, 2020. So
Mhm.
there's something about those zeros and twos. I don't know. Um, everything was normal then. It was a fantastic face-to-face event. We all met. In fact, Dr. Christine was so kind and invited us to her home, which was wonderful and unforgettable. It was a wonderful day full of high hopes, and things were soon to change, but it's okay. Like everyone, we're adapting. So can you go ahead, Rana, to the next slide? So now this shows how we adapted. This shows the transition. So this is our collaboration with regional leaders from January to July. See, that was the period of transition. January, I've highlighted here in blue. We were face-to-face in January. This is the poster for our January event, and you can see that we're featuring our plenary speaker, Georgios Kornpas, and you know the rest. And all was well, and it was a perfect face-to-face event. And in the center, we have the event that we were planning. This never happened. I started my speech tonight talking about how we were planning to have an event before Ramadan. And it was entitled, the theme was Language, Culture, and the Psyche. We had Dr. Dina Borai, who had agreed to come. This is in person. It was going to take place in Kuwait. And we also had two fantastic psychologists to talk to us about language, culture, and the psyche. However, and we reserved the room, and we had sponsorship for a fantastic breakfast. That was our plan for April. And now, if we look at the last poster in July, by this time, yeah, in April, we were wondering and hoping. Wondering, hoping, wondering, hoping. In July, fully virtual. No more wondering, no more hoping. We're fully virtual. And this was our symposium in July, which took place fully virtually and had many regional leaders, as you see there. You probably recognize several of them. There's Dr. Christine with us, Dina Barai, but virtually. And there's Dr. Mashail, and there's Sandy also. But by that point, you can see that we had transitioned all the way from fully face-to-face in January to fully virtual in July, just like most educational initiatives. And that's just about it.
Rana, can you stop sharing your screen, please, so I can share mine? Hello, everybody. My name is Sandy Stein. Sandra, if you would like, it's my full name. And I am coming to you from Kuwait. And there we go. Today, I'm going to talk about what happened in that process of going virtual and what got us there and how did we decide to keep going the way we were going. So as Allison was talking about, we were planning that symposium and everything was going lovely when along came these lovely or not so lovely viruses. And along with everybody else in the whole world, particularly educators, we started asking, what do we do now? How long is this going to last? And what do we do if we cannot meet in person? And so we began planning. And we decided that some things are better online. And we decided to go virtual. Now, the global move to everything online really was quite astounding. I think most of you, like myself, went through a period of struggle and found this whole online teaching, it's like a new world. It has completely changed many of the ways that I teach and the ways that I think about teaching. And it is something that has also opened up doors that we never really expected to be opened. We ended up with our symposium and we had these lovely speakers talking to us about all these different tools that we could use in the trade. And everybody was learning and interested. And our Facebook page went from about maybe 25 members to about 200 members just from the symposium. And we thought, wow, because prior to this, we had really been thinking that we wanted to go and establish an affiliate with TCell on a regional level. And when we saw all this and we saw that we had amazing participation, not just from the region, but from people around the world, and we saw the incredible inherent value of bringing in professionals from all over and not having to worry about flight costs and everything else, we decided to stay virtual and we decided to keep our membership free of charge because we're not paying for a venue. And we decided that, well, with that, we are just going to stick around online for a while. And these are the 6 of us here. As we, deliberated, and so much of what you don't see was going on behind the scenes. We met every single week on Thursday to talk about how we wanted to do things. And on Tuesdays, we met for Tuesdays with TCell that Georgios is going to talk to you about some more. It was a very time-consuming thing, but I think very, very worth it because we had considered and planned to become a TCell International affiliate, but we kept running up against obstacles. Not only did we have the obstacle of not being able to do things in person and having to do things virtually, there are also many complexities of forming an NGO in the Gulf. For example, in Kuwait, you need to have 50 or more members from that nationality, from Kuwait, Kuwaitis, not just people who reside here. And primarily, the people that were interested were not Kuwaitis. We were getting some Kuwaitis, but we didn't get many. And I think that is true in the whole region, that the foreign population who is teaching English tends to be in the majority, and that caused a problem for us. Also, we didn't want to be conflicting with other national or regional organizations that were already there, that were already affiliated. And if we wanted to establish a regional organization, a regional affiliate with TCell International, we realized that we would probably have to have a home base in one country. And again, that went right back to the first problem that we had. We have still been considering IATEFL, and we might go that way eventually, but we primarily decided that while this pandemic is taking place, and while we have this incredible opportunity open to us with virtual learning going on and professionals coming into the field and coming into our mini conferences and our weekly discussion forums, that really we didn't need to do anything else. we moved forward and continued in preparing our association. We began writing the bylaws for TCell Gulf. And that was one of the reasons we kept meeting over and over again. And we have lots of long documents, and we had lots of interesting discussions about how we wanted to form this membership that would enable us to get the greatest participation from people in the region. And then we were also thinking about the fact that this region tends to be very fluid. There are a lot of professionals that come and they're here for a year, 2 years, sometimes 3, and then they leave. They have short-term contracts. Unlike me, I've been here almost 30 years, but you know, that's another story. But because we wanted to make sure that we could involve as many people as possible, we went ahead and created our bylaws with those things in mind. And we created weekly events to continue that interest that happened with the symposium so that people wouldn't forget. And also, we had so many people like us that were feeling kind of lost with this whole switch to online learning. What do we do? How do I take my curriculum from here to there? How do I reach my students of all different age groups? These topics are still hounding us, but by meeting weekly, then we were able to bring in people to talk about these things in a very informal way that I'm not going to talk too much about because I'm stealing George's thunder. But then we also had a mini conference because we felt that none of us in the interim board are actually specializing or teaching at the moment in the K-12, and young learners are a particular problem or challenge, I would rather say, when it comes to teaching online. And there's a lot of research on both sides of the field about how you needed to go about it. So we worked on creating this. This was primarily George's baby, and he brought in speakers from all over the place, and we had a fabulous mini conference, and lots of people joined us and enjoyed it. And we're now looking forward to the next mini conference that Dr. Michal is working on called Tools of the Trade. And definitely thinking ahead to what do we want to do with our organization. And inshallah, we're planning to have our annual conference in January, so as not to conflict with any of the other organizations, the larger organizations. And we have definitely decided to remain virtual, at least for the time being, probably for this academic year. And then we will reassess things depending on what the world looks like at that time, because only God knows what the world is going to look like at that time. And now I'm going to turn it over to George. Georgios, do you want me to let you share your screen there?
Yes, please. I'll share my screen. Thanks, Sandy.
You're very welcome. And he's going to go into more detail about our weekly events.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. I don't think I need any more introductions. My name has been mentioned several times during this this talk and this panel. So I'm going to be talking today about the role of digital media in bridging global communities, and especially for the case of TCell Gulf. So primarily, all of you know what a community of practice is, but I just wanted to make certain that we all have a more formal idea. So the term community of practice is a group, and we owe that definition to Lev and Wagner in 1991, that they claim that there are people that share a common interest and a desire to learn from and contribute to the community with their variety of experiences. I don't think I could describe what we are doing in the TCell profession, more specifically in TCell Gulf, that doesn't attribute to that. So I think we're very, how can I say it, a very interesting and well organized community of practice that we share what we know, we share our knowledge, and we bring back to the community. Now, when it comes to communities of practice in TCell Gulf, I think the community of practice is broader as we see it. And as Sandy said earlier, we're all used to face-to-face conferences. And this is something that, that we do every year, or we do, I mean, when it comes to TCell International, we go to a different place every year and we meet. We see people from other places. We see people we haven't seen for a whole year. There's some people that we consider friends, that we see them only there. And for me, this is where you get so much professional development. And as Christine said earlier, like with more than 800 presentations, I mean, you need to be a very, very careful planner in order to see the sessions that you want. And I think we all, spend a lot of time when the program's out on which sessions we're going to attend, and actually some alternate, just in case something gets canceled, just in case the room is packed, and so on and so forth. If you have been to TCell International conferences even once, you have suffered from this idea. Now, it's not only the professional development, it's the social events. And when I'm talking about social events, it's just, going out for coffee with a friend, or going for lunch, or attending, all those social events that TCell International organizes, or the affiliates, and so on and so forth. There's so many events that are happening during the day, after the conference. TCell has special events that, I think I would like to call it, this is the glue that keeps us together. Yes, we do go for professional development, but those social events are those that bring us together. And it is really interesting to mention a social event that we were having dinner, I think, at one event, and this is when I met Rana. And Rana was actually looking for the chair of the council just to discuss something. And it was so funny that we met, we were sitting right across, I think, and we didn't know each other. She didn't know I was the chair of the NPC at the time, and I didn't know she was the person that was looking for me. So this can tell you how things can happen and how things can go sideways many times. Now, back to TCell Gulf. So while, we're all doing all of these discussions and we were going virtual, and we had a successful event in July, another one was coming later on, I was, I was thinking and discussing with the board of TCell Gulf, let's have a social event. And if you have read Tuesdays with Morty, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So then I said, why don't we create Tuesdays with TCell Gulf? And I think everybody was excited and everybody wanted to start this process. It was going to be informal discussions. We would have a topic, we would have a moderator, and then, things will start going on. And it happened. The first time I think I moderated the first one, it was about memories of your TCell journey up to now. It was 30 people. We had a lovely discussion, and the time just flew. And everybody that has moderated the session, they know that time flies. So some affordances for those events, that we made certain that we had international moderators. So we were asking for our members to come from different parts of the world, and we've had different ones up to now. We have started at 4 p.m. This was a time that it was convenient for August and maybe September, but then school started and things have shifted. So we moved on to 8 p.m. So we listened to, what the members wanted. Plus also we made it a little bit more interesting and time available for other people that were joining from different parts of the world. Now, I think it has become my favorite event every Tuesday, because we have the regulars. It's like going to a coffee place. It's like, like friends used to go to, their coffee place. This is where we go. So we have the regular people that are always there, but we always have new people. And it's really nice to see new faces, people like to, come and chat. They even join before, they want to stay after. I think one Tuesday we stayed like an hour after the event was over. Now, if you saw Taco Tuesdays, this is when we changed the time. So instead of 4 p.m., we made it later. And because it was like more dinner time, I thought, let's call it Taco Tuesdays. We do want to continue that. I don't know, even after we go face to face, maybe we'll keep that interaction. And our next event is this Tuesday with Mick King. He's going to be talking about what makes a great TCell colleague. And we're also looking for moderators. So we're booked for October, November. We're now looking for December and January. You can see the picture now. And these are our next moderators: King, Liz England, and Beatrix, which I think is here today. Right? Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, George. And I'll start sharing my screen. If you stop sharing, please. Okay. And then it's here. Sorry. Yes, here. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So thank you very much for the introduction, Hannah. Let me try to, I can't move my screen for, okay, here, good. So where do we go from here? After having listened to Christine and the others about TCell Gulf, how it started, what we've been doing, the question is, where do we go from here? We'll continue with our commitment in building teaching networks throughout the Arabian Gulf region and the globe. Yes, most of us are based in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, but we're aiming at reaching out for our globe friends, colleagues, and other professionals. We do believe, as my colleagues mentioned earlier, aspire to seek out affiliations with long-standing associations such as TCell International and IATEFL for global collaboration that would benefit members involved. But at the same time, we do believe we're not obsessed with that. We're more interested in providing something that is genuine, something that is useful, something that meets the needs and of people regionally. And we do believe that the collective expertise of the interim board members in the field between Christine, Rana, Sandy, Allison, Georges, and myself, we are able to direct TCell Gulf as an association and its members through difficult times, whether it is the pandemic at the moment or in the years ahead. Yes, we would love to collaborate. Yes, we do look for these associations as role models and as examples, but this is not our main concern. We are mainly concerned with what can we do, what expertise do we have to offer to the community of practice regionally. We believe that all features of a virtual association is found in our association. All features of a non-virtual association is found in our virtual association. We do have the international conference. It's taking place in January. We'll continue with our monthly and weekly events. We like to have steady performance. So in every month, we'd like to have something. Like, for example, in October, we're going to have a 2 hours event entitled Tools of the Trade, where people come, experts in the field, come and share with the audience what they're going to do, or what tools did they find useful during the pandemic for online teaching. In November, we're thinking of having an event about testing and challenges in testing. In January, we're going to have the conference. February, we're going to have something else about arts and literature. So we'd like to continue steadily with our monthly and weekly events. We also soon we're going to announce the elections for the board members. We do believe that this association was started by 6 people, but it cannot continue with only 6 people. So more room for people to join as members, as board members, or as volunteers, and so on. As Sandy mentioned, the bylaws are almost ready, and we try to cater for existing circumstances and maybe possible circumstances. As Christian also mentioned, we try to attract younger members who would understand more the needs of the younger generation. So basically, we'll continue in trying to meet the needs of the members in every way possible. I do not want to take from your time. It is already 8 o'clock. Thank you very much for listening, and maybe we'll have a couple of minutes for questions. I don't know, Hannah. Thank you. And I'll stop sharing.
Thank you very much, dear friends and colleagues. Thanks, Michelle, for finishing on time. Luckily, we got like, I would say 4 minutes in between your panel and panel number 3 to start. I think, yeah, it's starting 7:10. So we do have some space. Very insightful. I mean, eye openers, whatever ideas you've presented, each and every one of you. I have 2 questions from Dr. Abdelmajid Bouziane from Morocco, MATE, Moroccan Association for Teaching English. The first one is why TCell Gulf is why TCell Gulf? Is there anything specific about the region that calls for creating an organization, bearing in mind that each country already has a local association? So maybe you take this one and then I can ask number 2.
Okay.
Who would like
can
to
I
take
answer this one?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. All right. So yes, I do agree. There are several associations in the Gulf countries. I mean, formally, I think Saudi Arabia and Kuwait are the ones that have formal associations and TCell affiliates. I'm not certain about the other countries. Bahrain has a hybrid association sponsored by the British Council. Qatar, I'm not certain that there is something. Oman, and sorry, does not have an association. And the UAE has TCell Arabia as a conference when it runs, and different other conferences. So TCell Qatar has stopped existing a few years back. So for that, yes. So for that, we thought that there is a need for a regional association, something that will cater for the needs of all the teachers in different kinds of levels, like in the university level, in the K through 12 level, and professional development for instructors, teachers, researchers, all sorts of that. So we wanted to fill in that gap because we saw that there was a gap from our experience. All of us, I was just thinking, all of us have been in the Gulf for at least 10 years. That's, I think I'm the one with 10 years and everybody else is in 20 or 20 plus years. So I think it came through our experience. We're not here to substitute any local association. We're here to work with associations in countries that are open to collaborations. And we all want to help and support the teachers, because I think that's the basic idea of communities of practice. And this is why TCell Gulf has been created. I hope that answers your question.
I think so. Another question from Dr. Abdelmajid. How will this organization empower local associations? For example, sponsors will be more interested in sponsoring events by TCell Gulf more than local ones.
Can I answer this?
Dr. Koum, okay, please, if you wish. And Michelle, you can follow if you.
No, go ahead, Christine, that's fine.
Well, personally, we're not really asking for sponsorship. Our association is free of membership charges, and whatever sponsorship we might need, we've all decided as a group to subsidize whatever expenses we need, at least in the interim. So I don't see that as being a problem, because we're not going to be soliciting sponsorship from anyone.
Yeah, besides, so far We've had people from TCell International, from other countries coming to present based, or because we know most of these people, or they know our work. They've dealt with us. So we're not in competition. The idea is to provide something for the community of practice. And if a sponsor is attending one of the events, let's say in Kuwait, that is fine. We're more than happy to join forces. Everything is virtual. We are volunteering with our time and effort to cater for the needs, what we think is needed or is missing by the community. But we have never thought of this. Maybe in the future, if the time of sponsorship is raised, we're more than happy to collaborate. But it's not an issue at the moment. I can say that.
Well, there is an interesting point raised by Lilika Kouri, president of TCell Greece. She says the free attendance is the problem, not the sponsorships. I'm not sure if you can address this point. Well, neutral, huh?
Well, I can basically say that this is a difficult time for all associations because of this very thing. Now, many associations around the world are offering what I consider to be very high quality professional development, ourselves included, for little to no cost. And many associations are choosing to not charge people because it's easier to not charge than it is to actually cope with coming up with a mechanism to collect funds from various people around the world. I don't see us as being free forever, but in the interim, I mean, that's it's not about competition. And I'm sorry, at least, if us offering something for free is causing problems for affiliates who need to charge. I'm also involved with affiliates who need to charge in order to keep, the doors open, in order to keep going. I don't know how to solve this problem, quite frankly.
A very tricky situation, Mashal.
I think because we started as mainly virtual, or almost at the very beginning, we knew that we're going virtual. So we don't have like a place to pay rent for, a secretary to pay for, any station. We started virtual, so we are in a better position not to charge at the moment. So it's easier for us. And why charge people attendance when we are not paying for any of the things? Most of the people who present, they're doing this because they believe in sharing their knowledge with others and so on. And we believe in sharing our expertise and experience with others. It's a win-win situation at the moment, I think.
Thank you very much. Everyone thanks you here for the clarifications, for the insightful notes. And definitely, we all understand the point here and how tricky the situation is of supporting professional development, continuous professional development, providing quality at the same time. That trade-off, okay, how do we cover the essential costs? Thank you very much. We could listen to you hours and hours more. Hope you can stay with us for the coming or the session here or panel coming up. The team from TCell International Association. They're going to talk about coping mechanisms around the world, different perspectives. We already have on camera Catherine Lebeau, Dr. Okan Ifong. We have Grazia, right? Grazia Mendoza. We're missing Dr. Deborah Healy, aren't we? Yes, and there we go, the one and only Professor Healy. All right, thank you very much for being with us this evening. We're so much looking forward to a very interesting panel discussion. Allow me to introduce the panel properly here. Let me start with Dr. Deborah Healy, my mentor, instructional technologist. We met way back, like early 2000s, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah, very much around that, the very early generation training on instructional technology back in time call. Dr. Healy is the 2021 past president of the board of directors of TCell International Association. She's an online and face-to-face teacher educator. She writes and presents extensively and also internationally. Her topics of interest are the use of technology in language teaching. Her doctoral degree is in computers in education. Let me introduce Grazia Mendoza. I hope this is good enough, okay, because I cannot pronounce the rest of it. Excuse me. So Grazia Mendoza from Honduras in US State Department. She's an alumna recognized for project development, her teachers and professional growth. She's been in the field for 27 years. Her research interests include CALL, computer-assisted language learning, CBLT, is that content-based language teaching, methodological or methodical, is that methodology, I'm sorry, something to do with methodology and approaches to professional development. Currently, she is teacher or TCell International Board member and education specialist at the USAID Honduras. Thank you. Next, we have Kathy LeBeau. She's taught in both private and public schools in the US, Australia, Hong Kong, and Japan. Interesting indeed. Presently, she is in Massachusetts. She is a full-time middle school ESL teacher and an adjunct professor in education at Brandeis University. I hope I'm saying it right. Brandeis University. Finally, Carrie
Brandeis,
is
but anyway, Brandeis University. Yep.
Excuse me. She is a member of TCell International Board of Directors. Allow me to introduce our guest speaker from Africa, Qatar, Dr. Okan Efong, who teaches English in the foundation program, Qatar University. He has also taught in Nigeria, UK, and Japan. Interesting indeed. He is a board member of TCell International Association, the founder and past president of Africa TCell, and a past president of Qatar TCell. He holds a PhD in applied linguistics. So now, without further ado, the floor is yours. Looking forward to an amazing panel.
Okay, thank you so much, Hannah. It's always fun to be with you and do things with you. We're going to go in this order, sort of almost the opposite to the way that we were introduced. So here's the basic agenda. We'll have Okan with perspectives from Qatar and Africa. Then Kathy Lobo will talk about US-based middle school ESL. Grazia will talk about the Latin America and Caribbean, and I'll talk about TCell activities, and then we'll have some Q&A. So there is a resource list at this site. We will give it to you later as well. So now on to Okan. Take it away.
Thank you, Deborah. I have a couple of slides to share here.
Perfect.
Yeah, not a lot. Okay. There we go. Okay, I'll begin with Qatar and then move on to Africa, which is my domain. I begin by saying all things being unequal, because usually we say all things being equal. In our high school chemistry class, you hear relationships between pressure and volume if the temperature is constant. Since the pandemic started, we've been talking about virtual classroom in relation to the face-to-face teaching. assuming that our personal life remains constant, which is not the case. When this started in March, it was at the beginning of the semester, the spring semester. We came back from the spring break, and then we had to go virtual. It was very confusing for everybody. We thought about the platform to use. We're familiar with the LMS, which is Blackboard here in Qatar University. And then they introduced a Blackboard Collaborative Ultra, which was new. People were grappling with Teams, Microsoft Teams at the same time. People were using Webex. It was very confusing at the beginning. Then the university decided to adopt the Blackboard Collaborative Ultra as the official platform. So it was a new learning curve for everybody. Sorry, where's that thing moving? Sorry, that's not the slide. Okay, here we go. So it was a new learning curve for everybody. Then we had support structure. There were training programs by the university. The faculties were rolling out training programs, the colleges, the departments. So we're also busy learning this and learning that and learning this, learning that to be able to deal with students. At the same time, we were also trying to teach the students how to use the platform. So we all ended up teaching content and technology. And this was a new semester dealing with new students we could not even see because of the culture here, we're not allowed to see the students. They don't show their faces. So that again affected the way we had our relationships in the virtual classrooms. So as we struggled on, there were technical glitches. Because of the overload, the teachers who were teaching in the morning were always complaining of the Blackboard going down. Those of us teaching in the afternoon were lucky because there were fewer classes in the afternoon. So we were able to carry on teaching with minimal disruptions. But the good thing is, in all this, we were getting constant support from the university ITS system. I don't know how they were dealing with it. I'm sure they were working 24 hours because of the complaints, the emails, the telephone calls from hundreds of classrooms, all at the same time. But the most impressive was the support we were giving to each other, the teachers. Because in my program, we have 120 teachers from all parts of the world teaching different courses. We have a WhatsApp group. So when somebody is in the classroom and then you have a technical problem, you go straight to the WhatsApp group. Hey, I'm having difficulties with this. Somebody will respond immediately. Then you fix it. Sometimes my Blackboard is down. This one says mine is down too. This one says that mine is down. You're helpless. Then there's a suggestion. You can use Teams as backup. Oh, I don't know how to send email to my student. Go to Banner. How do I do that? So we were there helping each other even more than the ITS club done because you have to wait. Your request is in the queue. They have to deal with what is coming on before they come to you. So we ended up being able to know more about technology, maybe more than even the subject matter itself. We've become more like tech teachers than the content teachers. But in all this, we still had our own personal life to live. The fear of the coronavirus itself, the closures, the lockdown of the malls, the shops were not opening. So it was a real struggle, both in your personal life and your professional life. And then the restrictions in travels, some people had their families in other countries who were supposed to join them, they could not. Then you're busy dealing with how do I get my family back here? How do I deal with this technical problem? How do I deal with the students? And in my class, we use a Garnet, and students were supposed to get the hard copy. That did not happen. So luckily, the publisher was able to make the soft copies available to both the teachers and the students. Then again, we had to now teach them how to load the book onto their system, and then, so that's for the teachers. Then the students, how were they dealing with this? You can't be sure. Network problem, you're in class, somebody being kicked out, you have to email the student again, do this and do this to get back in. Teacher, my microphone is not working. Or you ask a student a question, Fatima, can you contribute to the discussion? No answer. Are you in class? Oh, teacher, sorry, we're having lunch. Hey, we're in class. No, teacher, this is family time. We're having, this is where we normally eat lunch, everybody. What can you do? So that's Qatar. Let me move to my continent because the time is so short. Hey, where am I? Africa. This is a different kettle of fish. You see, we sit here talking about this. We can use this platform, that platform to do what we are doing. In Africa, it's a different ballgame. But I would like to say, I think teachers in Africa are very resilient. I wouldn't know what happens in Latin America or Southeast Asia, but I will claim to be the most resilient set of teachers that we have in view of what has happened now in the world. The fighting spirit is great. If we had 10% of the resources here or in the developed world, I think we'll have done a lot more. In the best of times, Africa was struggling. Now with the pandemic, most countries shut down completely, economically and educationally. Schools closed, and then very few were able to operate, and few private schools, only attended by the rich kids. There was very little from the government, especially like my country, Nigeria. There was very little from the government. Maybe they opened lectures through television or radio. Then there is no electricity to power your television. There is no battery to put in your radio. How do you deal with this? So there was so much frustration. I know in Lagos in particular, there were some schools that were operating through WhatsApp. And this is, your WhatsApp, you can only do it through smartphone. Mm-hmm. So how many people can afford to buy a smartphone for the children in the house? Parents don't even have it. Then how can they now buy for children? There's also the cultural question. Some parents see smartphones as a corruption tool, that they're going to use this to go to Facebook and then look for girlfriends or boyfriends. So they will not even buy that for the children. And some parents will see it as a risk because when you expose your child to the social media, maybe kidnappers will now track your child down and kidnap. So there were so many obstacles to actually trying to support the individuals at home. And again, the great divide between the rich and the poor. The public schools are poorly funded, the private schools are well funded, and then only the rich go to the private schools. So you see the rich kids were able to still continue while the poor ones could not. And the fact that the system shut down economically, those who lived on selling fruits and vegetables on the road were not able to even get food to eat. How can you even discuss education when they're not eating? A hungry man doesn't listen to any sermon. So we in Africa TCell were able to provide a platform for teachers. Since they were not really teaching, it was an opportunity for them to develop professionally. So we offered webinars, and then through our affiliate network, we were able to track to see what they were doing in their different countries. And most of them did great. They were hosting sessions and academic sessions, PD sessions through Facebook, through WhatsApp, because they can't use Zoom or the expensive platform that we have in this part of the world. So that's where life just went on. Some countries are beginning to open now. Kenya has been shut down educationally. Probably by January they will open. Nigeria is planning to open by maybe next week. And not every university in Nigeria. The government asks those who are ready to now put measures in place, discuss with the government and see what is possible and what is not possible. So I'm sorry, my time is up. So I have to pass the baton now. Thank you.
Thank you, Okon. We're on to Kathy Lobo now. Kathy.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can see my first slide here. I appreciate the compliment with the announcement with PhD next to my name, but I actually don't have a doctorate, although I've done a lot of graduate work and have a master's or two and more than 80 graduate credits. But anyway, I appreciate that we all are on a journey in our lives and with sharing professionally and our TCell family. So without further ado, I'm going to share sort of coping with COVID-19 from a US-based middle school ESL teacher perspective. Let's see if I can get my slide to advance. Okay, so I like making pop-up cards. And this summer I made one for my principal, and it says, "Hi, Jackie, a little question for you. When does M come before B?" Because it's a sort of a language question. And anyway, I wanted to reach out to her and send her some kind words. And I think you know, it's Maslow's Becomes Before Bloom. So this is my little pop-up card that I sent to her. And I also wanted to remind her that it's important to think about what we're doing and how we're planning our lessons. So before March 12th, before all of this began, March 12th, this is a picture of a typical day for me. I had about 20 students that I served in grades 6 through 8. And this is our only room that an aide and I share, and we do push in as well as pull out. So I go and the aide goes into the students' classes and works with them right next to them and in collaboration with the teachers. And then we have them oftentimes like multiple booked to be in this room that we share. And so we have sort of different tables set up for different things, and it's very, very flexible. Things move around, and I think that the students are used to being very flexible. And we encourage collaboration. I covered up the 2 students that are sitting here because you could see their faces, but there are actually 2 different grade levels working here, and some of the students are working on homework, some of the students are working on classwork, and the aide and I are moving around and working. I think I was alone with them and the aide was doing push-in at this time. But I just wanted to give you a snapshot of what like life looks like in a suburb of Boston. It's Newton, Massachusetts, middle school of about 1,000 students, and there they are. Then suddenly we all went on to Zoom and working from home. And I actually used this corner of my home. And I asked my daughter, who's a graphic designer, to put a clock on the shelf behind me. The shelf is authentic, but the clock was made up because we had a competition to kind of build morale to of our screensaver shots. And I was really feeling like I was being run by Zoom. And I still feel that way to a certain extent. And maybe some of you do too. It's a curse and also a blessing. The other thing that we did is Okan was talking about resources and how we had to quickly find out who needed what, who needed internet connectivity, who needed a computer, who needed help to know how to use the computers, who needed materials. So a 6th grade group I was working with was reading this book called Smile. So I went through my house. I have 2 adult children now, but I went through my house and I found games and other books and National Geographic magazines and puzzles. And I really thought about each family. What could I give to them that would maybe help sustain the whole family, not just the children in the family that I was serving? So anyway, I made these kits up and I delivered them to their homes, but a lot of the teachers in my district were doing that. And the parents really, really appreciated it. Here are some examples of some notes that they wrote to me. Sometimes they would leave me something if they knew I was coming. We didn't really see each other we couldn't see each other face to face, but I would let them know, and they would leave me little care packages too. And it was very, very, I think, built very strong relationships. I have one family that's now returned to Israel, and the mother still wants to have a call from me every Tuesday, just like we did all spring. And I do correspond with her every week on a Tuesday. Graduation happened online for the high schoolers. I'm in the middle school, but we have a little moving on ceremony, and it was all very quickly put together in a very professional way. But I decided to make this for my little 10 seconds of saying something to the students. I decided to, each faculty member or each teacher was given, I decided to make a little sign in the language of the students that were moving on. We had 8 that were moving on to 9th grade. Then came summer, and we had all sorts of PD offered by our district, which was wonderful, but it was very time consuming. It was not because of union issues. We weren't required to do these things, but of course, everyone wants to learn, wants to do things better, so anyway, this is just the list of there were 5 areas of focus, and I think I did about 40 professional development hours of learning, which was helpful. But I think many of us were in this situation, and I echo what Okan said, where we all had to enhance the technology skills and communication skills, and it's really great if you can do it in collaboration with others. If not, where you're working in this way, which is across the world. So then September came and first day of school. And so this was my first day of school. My neighbor was outside and I was alone. And I said, come take my picture. So I ran outside and Kitty Cat decided to join me. I'm in my slippers. I thought I'm gonna leave my slippers on because that's what I'm doing now. And then I have this space where I'm sitting now. So that's my view when I look out the window, see the world go by a bit. And then I usually have a screen behind me. And we are doing the high school. Everyone is remote. There are 3 high schools in the district. The 4 middle schools are, we have several students that are coming to a couple of the buildings. Most of them are either students that have limited English, interrupted English instruction, SLIFE or SIFE, and they are at one school. And we also have students with special education plans. There are a few others as well, but in my school of 1,000 students, we only have about 30 that are actually going to the building every day and receiving instruction there. The plan is that we'll move to hybrid on the 16th of November. It's hard to say every day, everyone is watching the COVID infection numbers and all of that. I have to say, being in the Boston metropolitan area, a lot of the specialists that you see on CNN actually live in Newton, where I work, or they live in the metropolitan area. And so I feel as though people in this area are pretty respectful of the scientific guidelines that we're being given for how to conduct our lives in a safe way. As I said, I like to make pop-up cards. So here's like my pop-up card that I made for my students. I wanted them to see what our building looks like. I wanted it to be kind of like interactive for them. And I made a little computer and I have the little door with me. If we're at school, we're all required to wear a mask in the classrooms where we are. I didn't want them to get this nostalgic idea of going back to that picture I showed you in the beginning with all of us interacting and being very kind of messy, binders here, oh, come over here, I know that, come over here, tell me, just now the quota for the classroom has gone from, well, we had 15 chairs. I don't know if that was really the amount we were supposed to have, but we needed all 15 in the past. I think if we had more students, it would have gone up. We would have had maybe 18 chairs, but now our quota is 4. And my spot at the front of the class is just a chair next to, like near the clock. I don't even have a desk, which is fine, I'll manage. But anyway, we had about, as I said, I wrote 30 students on this slide. By the time the pandemic began, we dropped down to about 20, and several of the students that I serve are from like South Korea and Japan, and they often leave around March to return to their home country so they can begin the academic year there. And back to something that Okan said, I feel very connected to the world through my students. I have students from Uganda, South Korea, Thailand, Venezuela, Colombia, Holland, Albania, Guatemala, China, Japan, Israel, Brazil. And as I would call them every week on the telephone, to touch base with the families and to find out if there was something more that they needed, but also just to be a consistent person that would touch base with them from the school. I learned about what their concerns were in their countries, and just as we've been sharing today. And anyway, I feel that enriches our community because we can share what we learn from our students and from one another. I am reminded of, I think more about, I don't know about you, but I'm being inundated by all these different, like, learn how to do this, learn how to do that, sign up for this half-hour webinar, it's just like overwhelming. And I have done some of those workshops and things, taken them, but I really have to follow what my school allows, because we have firewalls and things up in place. So even if I learn of an interesting material or whatever, I can't always use it. So that was one reason why in the summer I really focused on what my district was providing that was approved. Anyway, but I still think about principles of learning, principles of guiding principles. And I think about this learning pyramid of like trying to avoid lecture. So one reason why I put a lot of pictures is because, well, that will hopefully help you to make connections to some of the things that I'm saying. And we're going to have discussion a bit later. And anyway, so I think about this learning pyramid. This year in the fall, instead of, I actually went to school one day and I'm sitting at one of the student desks because I'm alone in that part of the building. We don't have any students in the building at the time that picture was taken. But we went to school and we made grab and go bags of packets of materials and books. So this year in the fall, the students' families either came and picked those things up. They were made by each grade, or we did some deliveries. And so I have 3 random doors of places that I delivered things. I did the sort of Amazon thing where they take a picture of the package on your door and send it to you to say it's there. I also did this because I wanted to show that, that people live in a range of accommodation. The schedule. So we began school on time for the teachers, but the teachers had a 10-day delay for when we needed to serve students, during which we had like paid time to brush up on our technological skills and use of technology. But we also looked at the various schedule scenarios. So one was the hybrid version, one which is due to start in November, one is the what we're going to do now version, and one is the what will we do if we go into the remote and then have to move back. I mean, it's crazy. So this is the kind of thing that it adds to that kind of cognitive load of like, this is what I have to figure out before I even figure out what I'm going to teach. Anyway, we're doing orange weeks and blue weeks. And anyway, maybe some of you have schedules like this too, where when you're scheduling your own English class, it's kind of a given block, but then when you're doing the push-in, I've got to figure out, well, when is that 8th grader in history, or, and does it fit with when I can serve them? Again, thinking about strategies, instead of saying, oh, you should know Padlet, oh, you should know Zoom, oh, you should know this, you should know that. I've begun to think about it more in terms of like, what are things that are effective to use with students face-to-face, but also how might we replicate those things that have been very effective to enhance learning and facilitate learning in the virtual context. So I sort of provide this beginning of a list because I think there are many things that are like Jamboard or like Padlet or like VoiceThread that maybe have been approved by wherever you're working or provided by where you're working or whatever. So that's why I included this slide. There are a lot of amazing materials and they continue to be created and shared like daily. I also think about TCell's 6 principles, and I think about how these still hold true. And I know I have not purchased this yet, but they have a new quick guide, which sort of helps us to use those principles as guiding principles, but then adapt them to sort of the online format and remote format. And I feel as though that's more helpful to me than learning like how to use this gizmo in whatever program that I'm not able to access through my school computer. So I hope that you have an idea now about what I mean by M becomes before B. And I want to reiterate that what we do really matters. It's important. It makes a huge difference for students, even though it may not be apparent, it may be invisible. We're not alone. And I think that we need to continue to be part of communities of practice, be part of friendship communities. I haven't had a chance to join the Taco Tuesdays, but I want to make tacos and I will try. It's just the time zone thing. And with other commitments, I'm not ready to do it yet, but I will do that. And then I also want to finally say that we are all members of a very special TCell family. And just like with our biological families and families of friendship that are not connected to TCell, sometimes you can lean on them. Sometimes they need to lean on you. Sometimes there's a gap in being in touch, and all of that's okay. But the main thing is not to be alone or feel alone, to share. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you for your attention. And Deborah, if you want to introduce the next, it's Grazia up next.
Yes, Grazia will be up next. And Grazia, I'll go ahead and share my screen for you. So here we go. And another part of the world. Okay, Grazia, take it away.
Perfect, thank you. So good day, and thank you everyone for being here. And thank you to the organizers for the invitation. Special shout out to Hannah for reaching out to us. So I'm going to begin with a little background of Latin America and the Caribbean so that you know where we are. So we're over 20 different countries in Latin America. Usually we are seen as the same because we share the same language, but we are very different. And even within our countries, we have a lot of differences. Our traditions are different, our customs are different. And we don't only share Spanish, we have many different indigenous language that are spoken by our citizens in Latin America. There is interest in learning English for diverse reasons, professional, personal, for travel, for many things. And there's a push for bilingualism in the region, English being that second language that people speak, but sometimes it's not a second language. Sometimes it's a third or fourth or fifth language because people in Latin America speak different languages too. So what happened? Well, like in every place in the world, the health crisis shifted our countries dramatically, right? We were drastically brought into the present reality. I don't like to say the new reality because I think even though it's going to take a little bit of time to go away, we're going to get over this and we're going to be learning a lot from this. So this present reality brought along the uncertainties that Ocon and Kathy were talking about. And we could see, and our educators in Latin America could see how we were aware of inequities, but this situation really heightened those inequities and let us see that our students don't have access to many things that sometimes are taken for granted in some places in the world. We could see that our students do not have access to technological resources as we would like those to be available for them. And in many countries, a small percentage of students had access to that virtual learning. And we could see also that we could not only focus on the virtual part. We could not only focus on platforms. We needed to go to those traditional things that we're used to learn in the past, like TV or radio. And in some cases, even, we had to print materials and hand deliver them to students in rural areas in our Latin America because they didn't have access to internet or TV or radio. Also, we were faced with what we were discussing before, lack of skills. How do we bring a face-to-face classroom to a virtual setting? You cannot just transfer that curriculum and start working on it, right? You need to prioritize content and make sure that it's significant, that it's relevant, and that you're going to have a way to monitor the progress and that the students learn what they need to learn to be promoted to the next year. There was also the uncertainty of employment. Many teachers lost their jobs. Many people, many families lost their jobs, and it was difficult for children to continue studying. And then many teachers are not receiving their salaries. In many of our countries, teachers have a delay in receiving their salaries of 2 or 3 months. So this creates additional layers of stress for educators in our region. Now, we didn't, like Ocon said, we are resilient. And I think language educators are even more resilient. We think of so many different ways to do things. And right, we went online. Institutions started reaching out to each other and finding ways in which to collaborate. There were talks, there were webinars, there were events online, there was, like Kathy said, an overabundance of resources that at a given point in time, it became very overwhelming. And people needed to start taking a step back and say, I need to prioritize what I need to use and what is useful to me. And there were different approaches in which people were collaborating in this while this situation was happening. Like I said, all conferences and professional development events went online. People were doing talks and a lot of professional development online. But people were, like TCell Gulf and Nile TCell, having games online. And I haven't had the chance to attend Yuri's game sessions, but people were also trying to engage in a personal way online, right? Because it's not only about the professional developments, it's that personal touch that was being missed because we were not able to interact face to face. Many people were using Facebook Messenger to share information, or WhatsApp to share resources, and also social media in general to promote resources. But I think, and I want to highlight that, yes, there have been many challenges. Yes, there has been a ton of inequity, but I want to highlight that a silver lining of this crisis has been the partnerships that have been created. This have strengthened the work that we do in our region and have been significant to bring people together from different parts of the world to collaborate. And I will show you several examples as we move forward. Monitoring of the remote learning. This was very difficult, and this was a difficult and very steep learning curve for people. How do I assess my students? How do I measure that they are learning? How do I make sure that they have remained engaged? Kathy gave several examples of what people also in our region are doing to make sure that their students have that personal touch, that human touch, and making sure that they are learning what we have prioritized, and making sure that we are able to say, yes, you have learned the skills to be promoted to the next level. I know in our countries, the ministries of education are very worried about that. How do we make sure that we're not promoting a learner that it's not going to have the skills that they need to be successful in the next grade? Because most of our schools in Latin America have been out of school for the whole year. For example, in Honduras, our children only went to school for a month and then they were out of school, and they will probably not be able to go back to school next year either. So it's a difficult situation. And looking for ways in which to monitor the students' progress has been a topic that people have been very interested in, and on which many people have been reaching out for resources, using tools, using a different way to prepare a quiz, using what is on the internet, but also using more creative ways, more engaging ways, using those task-based, project-based learning methodologies to make sure that they do develop those competencies, and that we do know and understand that they have had some learning during this time. Like Ocon said, educators are resilient. So I want to use that phrase again. And I want to show you, and I will very quickly show you the examples of what each country and each association or group of teachers in each country have done during this time. For example, Dominican Republic TCell, they held their convention online. The topic of the convention was developing digital skills. That's what was relevant. And they had a very good attendance of around 300 teachers. And they opened it for other teachers in Latin America. Puerto Rico TCell, all of their events went online, their summer institutes, their chapter conventions. And they invited presenters from all over the world to share. They did this for a fee, but they opened it for TCell affiliates to participate without paying that fee. So that was a benefit for the region. Then in Honduras, Health at TCell, this association decided that they didn't want to create talks to add to what was already there, but instead spread the word of what people were doing. And what they focused on with the academic coordinators was providing one-on-one direction to the members, because we had a ton of messages in that Facebook page that asked us, how do I do this lesson plan? How do I transfer this into a virtual setting? So the focus was providing that one-on-one help, and then spreading the word and sharing best practices. Panama TCell developed a partnership with the RELO in Panama, and they created a series of talks from July to August. And it was interesting because they also created flyers to talk about preventive messages, wash your hands, keep physical distance, so that people remained healthy during this time of the pandemic. Then TCell delivered their country seminars that they hold online, and they did it for their members, but they also opened them to affiliates. And these were all for free and available online. TCell, they organized festivals for children. They brought invited speakers to talk to the children and to talk to the youth about culture, about traditions and other topics. They created specific talks for assessment, for online work, for virtual settings, and they also partnered with EFL Talks to present what they have been doing in Equatizo. Paraguay TCell also held monthly pre-conference webinars. Then they had their virtual conference, and it was very successful with a very cohesive program with speakers from all over the world. They also did it for their members for a fee, but opened it for international TCell affiliates that could participate for free. Urutizo did a very interesting project. And I like this special project because it connects people worldwide and goes back to that, the pen pals that we used to do by writing letters. Well, they're now doing it online, and it works very well because it brings people from all over the world together. So this is an example of how to bring people together, not only for professional development, but for other types of connections. Perutizo held their convention online, and this was only for their members. And I have several examples in Peru because Peru Tech, no, the next one. These are Peru international meetings. And I like these international meetings that Jaime organizes because he brings people from all over the world to have very organic conversations on different topics, and many related to professional development, but several also related to mental health, well-being, self-care. And then finally in Peru, Peru Tech, that are also holding a series of talks with presenters from all over the world to talk about different tips and trips for teachers during this virtual context. So if you notice, there's a trend for the virtual part. Then Argentina, Artiso, I like their approach because they're also asking teachers to publish. Come and write for us, come and write for our journal. And that's a good thing, right? Because we don't focus only on professional development for teaching, but what about the publishing part for teachers too? So that's a good approach that they have. And they are also doing their webinars and also spreading the word of the webinars and all the professional development from all the other associations in their Facebook pages. Then universities and ELT institutes came also together and collaborated with groups in the region, with associates in the region, with teachers in the region, and brought together different topics related to research, related to TPR, related to what is the nature and the reality of your country. And these are examples from Colombia, Peru, República Dominicana, and Honduras. Then, like I said, U.S. Embassies and RELOS partnered with binational centers. They partnered with teacher associations, and they partnered with teachers in the region in general. And they brought topics that are relevant, methods and best practices, reading and listening, not only virtual contexts, but also other things that teachers, and like Kathy was saying, I need to focus on what I need in my school, right? And bringing that to the classroom is also helpful. Then we have the publishers. And again, I have to say, publishers partnered with associations, with teachers, with groups of binational centers, with institutes, and to bring topics together. National Geographic just started their Central American ELT Symposium, focused on teachers from Central America and Panama. They will do another for South America in the future. Pearson, Macmillan, and this is not advertisement for them. What I'm saying is they can also bring something to the professional development realm. And these are examples that you see from Mexico, Bolivia, and other countries. Yeah, no, that's okay. Teacherpreneurs have their businesses, but they are also offering things for free for people on well-being, on self-care, on mental health, and also things that people need to learn. So they are offering, yes, they need to keep their business, but they are also offering things for free. And here we see some examples from Peru and Jamaica. Asocopi, they are closing today their convention, and they are closing it with a very rich program, over 60 online presentations and plenaries, with a lot of research, with a lot of grassroots information, with a lot of community building, with a lot of promotion of collaboration. As a matter of fact, Deborah Short, president of TCell International, will close the conference today in the afternoon. And then the Latin America and Caribbean TCell group, We have collaborated in different ways. We are TCell affiliates and English teacher associations in Latin America and the Caribbean that share our expertise in different places. We have been invited to many different events, and I have to give a shout out to George also here, because he is the promoter of many things that have happened and where the Latin American and Caribbean TCell group has been involved. Also a shout out to TCell, because they host the webinars where we can share our expertise with teachers from all over the world, not only in Latin America. And then I will not give details about TCell International Association because Deborah is going to do this. But what I want to highlight here, and going back to what I said at the beginning, the positive thing about this health crisis has been the partnerships, is that because of a partnership between RELO and TCell International Association, 2 to 3 teachers from the Latin American countries were able to attend the first ever online virtual convention for TCell International Association. So you see, there's a value in partnerships, there's a value in creating community, there's a value on working together, there's a value on events like this that we are participating in today. And it's important that we continue to keep in mind that we are a community of learners, we are a community of practice, we are a community of people engaged in learning and sharing and growing together. So thank you for having us here today.
Okay. Thank you, Grazia. This is an amazing collection of ideas and just gives a sense of what people around the world are doing. So I'm going to talk, bring this all together now and talk a little bit about what the TCell International Association is doing. And I want to thank our previous presenters, both in this session and the previous session, for mentioning the various things that TCell is doing. This is going to be a really quick look at some of the various things that are available through TCell, both for free and for members. So as you all know, we had a sudden shift in March. We canceled our in-person conference. We decided to do the first ever virtual convention. And one of the things that we'd been saying for a long time is that we have to move away from the conference as the main thing that we do in TCell. So here it is. We don't have a conference, no face-to-face conference. So it really pushed everybody to do more all year. And so that's one of the small silver linings of this. We've had additional work from interest sections, professional learning networks, professional councils within TCell to do more all year. One of the things I'd like to mention is the My TCell Lounge. Let me put the link to that in the chat. The My TCell Lounge is free. It's a free registration, free to anybody. And I'm mentioning it here because it's a way that information about all of the things we offer is often shared, so that you can find out about both our member benefits and our free to everyone events by becoming a member of My TCell and going to the My TCell Lounge. So in addition to the lounge, as part of My TCell, there is a COVID-19 resources group. It is, again, free to join. It's got an amazing number of resources for you. And I'm going to give you a few samples of this. It's at my.tcell.org. And so, for example, we've got a bunch of discussions, 56 discussions within this community. And then there are a bunch of library resources. Again, this My TCell Lounge is free to anyone in the world. You just get a free registration. You register for free and you can join. So we've got online teaching resources. This is a small segment of that list of online teaching resources. But I want to call out one in particular, the NICE TCell, New York State TCell online teaching resource list, as a fabulous resource for everybody. It's organized, it's got a little bit of description of each thing. So I love this resource list. They're also, as part of the COVID-19 site and in the My TCell Lounge, we have tools for responding to COVID-19. So things that you can share with students and with their families and with other teachers. So various resources, often in multiple languages. And a little bit here on working from home. But what we did in August and September was to create back to school resources. So this is available, as you can see, at www.tsel.org/back-to-school. So this particular site is part of the TCell Resource Center. Now, the TCell Resource Center has a mixture of things that are freely available to everyone and things that are member benefits. But the ones that they're listing here are free to anyone. So you've got a variety of things that it's offering for, anybody to use. And this is what you see when you go to that page. For example, the blog posts here, we've got things again divided by online teaching, remote teaching, then things for primary and secondary, things for adults. So you've got a variety of things, both, the featured resources and links to the blog posts. The TCell blogs are always free to everyone. And you can, again, find out about the TCell blog on the My TCell Lounge page. So it's a great way to look for additional help. There have been some wonderful blogs posted for particularly responding to TCell and remote learning. So I want to emphasize that in particular. Here are some examples: breakout rooms, keeping a personal connection, as Kathy talked about a lot, as Grazia also talked about. How do we keep our connections to our learners? A variety of things. So this is just a brief sample of a few of the items that we have available in the TCell blogs. We have an upcoming webinar. As you can see in the pricing, it is free to TCell members, global members, and non-members. So this is one on digital literacy. We just finished online learning strategies for English language learners. That was on Wednesday. And what happens is that we have our virtual seminars and our past webinars that are member benefits. So if you missed this one and you're a TCell member, you can find it in the TCell Resource Center with these other virtual seminars. The virtual seminars are typically 90 minutes long, so they're something that are a bit longer than many of the webinars. We've heard a lot about our affiliate webinars. We've also had interest section webinars. This is from the teacher education interest section. The thing with the interest section webinars is that these are all freely available on YouTube. If you do a search for TCell interest section webinars, you will find these. It's a substantial collection. Teacher education has just been going tremendously forward with webinars, as well as a number of other TCell interest sections. And then, these are some of the webinars that are listed as part of the TCell list. Grazia, Okan, and others have talked about the massive number of affiliate webinars that have gone on. And I have to give a shout out to George Kornpus for the affiliate network and his great leadership in encouraging this to happen within TCell as well. We also have one more thing that I will throw up here, the TCell certificate. This is not free. This is a 20-hour program, excuse me, a 20-week program with 3 full courses and a 2-week capstone project. But this is something that we have offered and are continuing to offer, developing an online teaching program. So this is something that you can consider as well. The other thing that I want to mention that is very near and dear to my heart is our work with diversity, equity, and inclusion. This has been happening since this summer. We issued a statement related to the death of George Floyd. We've had the Diverse Voices Task Force for a little over a year now, and they've offered some sessions at the virtual convention. We just finished the survey of TCell members about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We should be getting some results from that in their upcoming report. And we have had a wonderful number of webinars by a variety of interest sections, by our professional learning networks, and by affiliates related to this very important issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because one thing that this pandemic has shown us is that equity is something that we are missing, that many of our learners are suffering needlessly because their families are suffering more. It's just highlighting the disparities that existed before. So this is another thing that we've been doing in TCell. So just to sum up, so much stuff, so many resources, the discussion forums, including not just the My TCell Lounge, but all of the intersections have discussion forums that members can join. The resource libraries, both the free resource libraries within My TCell Lounge and intersection libraries, the TCell Resource Center with many free to all resources, as well as member benefit resources, blog posts available to everyone, webinars, both live and on YouTube, and the certificate that I mentioned in developing an online teaching program. So this is your the ad for for TCell that I had to throw in here. There are a variety of membership options, professional member, lower income professional, new professional, the global professional, maybe of particular interest depending on the gross national income within your country, and then for students who are at least half-time students, and retired professionals. So a variety of ways that you can join TCell. So thanking you from myself, and we have a resource list as well that you can access, and our email addresses, and we will move into Q&A at this point. So if there are any questions for us.
For starters, thank you very much. Thank you very much, really. I mean, that was most enjoyable, looking at how things were different parts of the world. I believe it's time to have this get together of, panelists from both, groups, maybe on camera, mics open, and other speakers we have, as panelists on the list here, if they wish to join us in a free-flowing discussion here, Q&A. It's just involving the audience members here in some interesting discussion of, I would say, the leaders of education in the different parts of the world. So can we have panelists, okay, in group or panel 2 together with us here? Do you think it's possible? George and the team, George, Rana, anybody? Yeah, Sandy, Michelle, anybody would like to just join us here? Yeah, the feedback here from our audience members, they're saying here, awesome. And it's been an awesome experience having scholars, true scholars, dedicating their time just to join us here and just give us, okay, an experience of a lifetime. I feel honored, really, to have witnessed this moment, an experience of a lifetime. I've had several along the way, but never ever have I seen that much dedication and support, moral support on a day that people celebrate mental health and well-being. Incidentally, Fatma Ali told me yesterday, or told all of us yesterday, this is the day to support each other, especially those people, dealing with students, okay, teachers, teaching students, teacher trainers, educators, etc., who've been experiencing extreme pressures from different, and being pulled in different directions because they couldn't maintain the balance. Everyone was, taken aback, off their feet, not knowing what to do. People experienced terrible feelings of isolation. Now we're coming together at this moment and trying our best to overcome that. And on a positive note, very positive vibes. I can attest to that. And I wish to hear from the audience here if they've managed to capture some of these positive vibes. That would be great. I have Olenka saying, I really enjoyed this fruitful session. Thanks a lot. And that's an amazing time that we've had. Dr. Abdelmegid, I think I've come across a note from him here. Apparently, Dr. Abdelmegid met with Okan maybe in Africa or Nigeria, where he gave sort of like training on associations and creating associations. And he was hopeful that that made an impact. Ripple effect, it doesn't have to have an impact right away, but see now, I think the impact is there. And I think Dr. Healy, you've met with Dr. Abdelmegid again.
Yeah.
He said hello at a certain point when you were busy. There is like people who say it's 2 a.m. here. Khadija from Malaysia, okay, joining us. I mean, you can tell for sure. She tried to catch up here despite the time. Yeah, I'm just capturing some of these comments very quickly. Dr. Abdelmegid again, thank you for your generosity. I'm really happy, lucky to belong to the ELT community with such supportive people. Thank you to all our affiliates and speakers for their support. Yes, thoughts, okay.
Actually, I had a question for my fellow folks here. There's so much stuff out there. How do you keep track of it? How do you make sense of it? I mean, Kathy showed her short list, but I mean, it's just looking at the webinars that exist. How do you track things?
I'd really like to know the answer to this question as well. When you were going through the digital literacy thing, I reached for my pad to write it down, and then you were on to the next slide. And then I thought, okay, that sounded interesting, but I probably don't have time anyway. So I'm curious to the answer to that as well.
So I have a thought I'd like to share. I would not want to say it's the answer, but I have a file on I keep my professional life of outside of my school and my school professional life on two separate computers. So I'm now on my home one, my TCell World one, but on both computers, I have a file that says tech. So whenever I sort of see a resource or whatever, I'll try to name it in a way with a title and a date so that I have it there, because sometimes you see something and you don't need it now, but then you're like, oh, wait a minute, there was that thing. So that's one way that I do it. I might take a screenshot of something and label it that way to give me a breadcrumb trail to follow. But so that's how I deal with that piece of it. And the other is that I always think about the students, like, who am I serving now? And what do I see that their needs are? And their needs are often in flux and changing. So I always am thinking, maybe this is a little bit like backwards design, Wiggins and Ty, like, what am I trying to do? How are they going to show me what they know? And then looking back at, well, what do I have as a way to get there? And what I've done in the past may not be what I'll do in the future. In the fall last year, we grew bulbs, and I gave them the bulbs, and we did all sorts of scientific language and math and all of that. And I'm thinking this year I may do the same, but I'll drop off a kit, and I'll have 2 kinds of seeds and ask them to sort them one day. And if I can't reach them digitally, like through a Zoom call, I'm going to call them on the telephone. I mean, I might meet them outside their home, and I'm standing on the sidewalk and they're at their front door, and I talk them through doing something. I mean, I think that's the way that I'm managing, always looking back at what are the students, what do they need, and then how might I need to change what I'm doing to meet those needs. And I also think we have to give each other a little bit of slack. Like, maybe we can't do everything, and maybe that's okay. Maybe they just need to know that we care, and they know that we need to make them, help to facilitate their being safe. So another thing I'll just quickly share is the first thing I did this year with the students is in my drop off of things, not the school official ones, but additional things, I had a kit for making a mask, and we did a sewing activity to help them make a mask, because I think sewing is a very good life skill, but also making a mask, they're getting ready to also keep themselves safe. And maybe we'll use those masks when we see each other at school. And the whole procedural language, there's so much language lesson could be part of that. So I'm sorry if I've said too much, but anyway, that's what I want to share.
I think Abdul Majid had something he wanted to say in the chat, but I don't see him now.
The microphone is on mute.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, good. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
So I will just, hi, Deb, how are you?
Good.
Good. Well, to answer this question, it seems that for those who have been on technology for quite a number of years, we have developed a kind of know-how by which we can evaluate all the new technologies around. Let me give you a concrete example. If you take the video conferencing applications that we have around, so they play quite the same role. It's just, direct contact with your viewers, and sharing your screen, sharing all the documents that you want to share. But there are some specific things about each one of them. And the way I keep track of all these is that I try to get the advantages of each of these applications. And whenever I have a need, I will use either one of them because I need it at that particular moment. The same thing goes for the LMS. So all the LMS platforms do quite the same thing, there is sharing, there is video conferencing, there is forums of discussion, activities to engage students, and other things. So what I try to do is I look for them from that holistic perspective, but bearing in mind some specific things about each of the applications. And then whenever I have a training, whenever I have when I have to answer a question about these applications, what I do is I raise the commonalities first, because there are so many, and then I can raise some specific things about each of these applications. So this is how I cope with I understand that there are so many applications, there are so many technologies, but if we know what they do and we have a kind of umbrella way of looking at them, I'm sure that we can cope with the number and with the diversity of technologies that we have. Thank you very much.
Thanks, George. Yeah, Vance's resource list of events is very, very useful.
It's amazing. Everything. It's a very good hobby in something. You keep track of a lot of events on the world.
Mhm.
And on that note, I just because we talked about affiliates, I'm gonna head from TCell Gulf to NPC. And if you're attending the TCell conference, state conference, tomorrow we'll have a session, and we're gonna talk about the TCell affiliate resilience during COVID. So it's at 6 p.m. Saudi time. So it will be 8:30 Pacific time. If you're in Katiso, drop by.
That would be wonderful. Just to give you a heads up, we have two more featured talks. We have Rob Howard, and he's going to be followed with Anastasia. Both are giving very interesting talks. Anna has that talk about, again, maintaining that spirit in class, how to maintain positivity. So in case you have time to join us, that would be very nice. Why don't we just take these 20 minutes for a break? Okay, if you wish, and come back 8:30, everything the same, technically speaking, no changes. Hopefully things will be back in place. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.